wakati mbona ukitega kila man, kila man, kila man, kila man. I feel keep him on, keep him on, keep him on, keep him on.
Across the World Wide Web, on your mobile devices, on social media platforms, this is Jambo Radio! www.jamboradio.co.uk. We are multilingual. We are conversational in the languages you best understand. We are Jambo Radio! Jambo Radio, inspiring transformation.
Hello everybody, welcome to BB's African News Magazine show on Jambo Radio, the show that focuses on all things positive coming from the Scottish African diaspora and the African continent at large. We're here on a beautiful sunny Monday morning in Glasgow, Scotland, and you know what to do if you want to join us and have a little fun with us today. We're going to bring you some amazing music, history, spotlights, and everything in between. Some current affairs as well. Let's see what goes on today. If you want to join us, you know what to do. Just type the 3 magic words, Jambo Radio in Scotland, and you will find us on all social media platforms. Or if you're a brave soul and you want to join us live in the studio, all you have to do is call the number on your screen or listen to my voice. The number is 0141 530 2787. That is 0141 530 2787, and you will be live in here sharing your questions, opinions, comments, anything you want to do to interact with us. If you want to leave a comment on social media, just leave it while we're on the show and we'll read it out live. I'm here today. I'm ready to start the show. Baron's here. Baron, you ready to start the show?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Here we go. All right. So we're going to jump right in today and talk about our first news story, which is, Baron, did you hear about, the judge we've been following, the Kenyan judge, UN judge?
Yeah.
She has been jailed. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
We talked about the trial and the arrest and the trial for modern slavery. So let's read the story and then we'll come back and talk about it. So Lydia Mugabe, the UN judge previously on trial for modern-day slavery, has been jailed for 6 years and 4 months for apparently forcing a woman to work as a domestic slave. Mugabe, 50, was studying for a PhD in law at the University of Oxford when police discovered she had a young Ugandan woman at her home carrying out unpaid work as a maid and nanny. Mugabe, who is also a High Court judge in Uganda, was jailed at Oxford Crown Court on Friday after she was found guilty of modern-day slavery offences in March. In sentencing, Judge David Foxton told the defendant that she showed absolutely no remorse for her actions and she had looked to forcibly blame the victim for what happened. Mugabe fraudulently arranged a visa for the woman, but stipulated that she would be paid to work as a private servant at the diplomatic residence of John Mugerwa, Uganda's former deputy high commissioner based at the country's embassy in London. Prosecutors said Mr. Mugerwa sponsored the victim's visa, knowing she would actually work in servitude for Mugabe. In return, Mugabe would provide him assistance in relation to a separate case in Uganda in which he was a defendant. The trial heard Mugabe paid for the victim's flight and picked her up from the airport, but the young woman then became a slave at the judge's home in Kiddington, Oxfordshire. Mixer Foxton described it as a very sad case as he outlined Mugabe's legal accomplishments, including her work in the protection of human rights. In a written statement read to the court by prosecutor Caroline Hoey, KC, the victim described living in almost constant fear due to Mugabe's powerful standing in Uganda. The woman, who cannot be named for legal reasons, said she cannot go back to Uganda due to fear of what may happen to her and has added that she may never see her mother again. Ms. Howie said Mugabe exploited her victim by taking advantage of her lack of knowledge about employment rights and misleading her about why she came to the UK. She said there was a clear and significant imbalance of power within the relationship between Mugabe and her victim. The Crown Prosecution Service authorized police to charge Mr. Mugerwa with conspiracy, but he had diplomatic immunity, which the Ugandan government did not waive. Mugabe has denied forcing the young Ugandan woman to work to do household chores and said she always treated her with love, care, and patience. Superintendent Ben Clark of Thames Valley Police said there was no doubt that Mugabe had known she was committing offences. Modern slavery is an underreported crime, and I hope that the bravery of the victim in this case encourages other victims of modern slavery to come forward. University of Oxford spokesperson said the institution was appalled by its students' crimes. University is now commencing its own disciplinary process, which has the power to remove students convicted of serious criminal offences. Oh my goodness. This is all come crashing down, has it not, Baron?
Yeah, it has.
So not only did the UN waived her diplomatic immunity, the Kenyan government didn't waive it for the actual person who sponsored the visa, right? But the UN waived hers. She's going to be stripped of all her, accolades, and the University of Oxford is going to also probably remove her, and she's going to jail for 6 years.
6 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not completely 100% sure. How do I put this? It's a crime, right, under British law, but we do, like we discussed it a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? We have this informal arrangements we make within ourselves, within the community.
Yeah.
Come stay with me. I'm in London now. Come stay with me. You be in the house, auntie. Hey, Sarah, whatever your name is, could you do the dishes? Make sure you da 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 da. Is that really truly slavery? I know you're not getting paid. Maybe you're sponsored. You're a niece of the house. You're a friend of the house. You're a younger sister, or quote unquote, how we do it in Africa.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not read the same way here. Or do you think it's a lack of remorse that led the judge to sentence her so harshly? Because if she believes she didn't do anything wrong, she would I didn't do anything wrong. I brought her into my home. I treated her well. Yes, she did some household chores, but what's the big deal? That kind of attitude.
Yeah.
What do you think, Baron?
Well, I think she probably just stood by what she thought was right, or maybe she thought what she did was right in terms of the African side, where it brings on. But here they look at it completely different. So I think that might be why they think she didn't have any remorse.
This is terrible, and the fact that they're saying, "Oh, it's underreported," and hope the bravery of this particular victim is going to encourage other victims, which on the surface this is great, but it could also lead to people who have all these informal arrangements going, "Hey," because she says she can't go back to Uganda.
Yeah.
Because the judge has such a big high standing in Uganda. If she goes back to Uganda, she's going to be in trouble for reporting her and blah blah blah. So now she's going to get automatic British citizenship, protection, all of that.
Yeah.
What's to stop other people, who are under these informal arrangements coming forward and go, yeah, I too am a modern slave, and I too can't go back to XYZ country.
Yeah. So now you're going to have more people.
An avalanche.
Yeah, more people that maybe they're not even in
any servitude.
Yeah. Come out to make claims.
Jeez, because that's an automatic route to citizenship, isn't it?
Yeah. You get some kind of asylum.
Real
get
quick.
To stay here.
Wow. I'm not saying if she was forcing her to do these things. I mean, I think what really did it in for her was the fact that it wasn't she who sponsored the visa. It was the High Commissioner, Deputy High Commissioner, right? And so he sponsored it, and they said it was a work visa, and she was coming to work in his house. She never did. She went straight to the judge's house and was living there, right?
Yeah.
But that's how we do things, Oh yeah, you sponsor, but she's gonna stay with me. It's when you look at it on the surface of the law, by the letter of the law, it seems so clear that it's a crime.
Yeah.
But when what we understand within each other in the community could be a bit different, I sound like I'm defending a criminal. I sound like I'm blaming the victim. I'm not blaming the victim. Honestly, she felt in fear, and she felt like she was in servitude, and she was lonely, and she was sad and all that, and being forced to work. Of course she should be treated as a victim. But I'm just thinking it's a lot on the judge. 6 years in jail, and the loss of her, everything, because the UN is not going to take her back, I'm sure, after this. She's not going to be a judge at the UN anymore. Is she going to be a judge in Kenya? If your judge has gone to jail in the UK, when she goes back to Kenya, is she still going to have her job as a high court judge?
No. No.
And the PhD she came to in Oxford, she's probably going to be stripped of that as well. All over the fact that she had somebody working in her house. I mean, the British government is not playing. All I have to say is, if you have any informal arrangements, I would suggest tightening them up, formalizing them.
Yeah.
Probably getting a proper work visa, and showing that you're paying this person every month in a bank account. Keep the records, so in case anything like this happens, you have a paper trail, you have a bank account for the person set up to show they're working for you, they're living well with you, and you're paying them.
maybe like a proper contract as well. So you know, this is what you're getting paid.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
I know people who actually have these the formal versions. You know, they're bringing XY person from their home country to help them in the house with the children while the kids are young. The mother's working, father's working. So you bring somebody from back home, but they're also paying them. Not paying them direct, put them in a bank account for them so that when it's time to go home, because you're eating for free in the house, you're sleeping, you're not paying rent, you're sleeping in the house, you're eating in the house. So what they're doing is they pay the salary into an account, and then when it's time to go back after a year, maybe 2 years, whatever, however long, you have something to hold, for you, which is fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
This could have been me, Baron. Honestly, do you know how many times my parents tried to get somebody from me from back home to help me with it when the kids were young? And I wasn't planning to pay them, quote unquote. I was planning to they will live with me, be be part of the household, put some pocket money aside for them. That was very light arrangements, very tight, flexible arrangements, nothing set in stone. So that kind of, you're helping me, I'm helping you kind of thing, that could have put me in trouble as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Thank God they never got their visa.
Oh, so you were on the way
twice.
Visa.
They just never got. They just got rejected twice. And I was like, you know what? I have to do this on my own because we've tried twice. I guess it's not meant to be. And then I moved on with my life. So imagine they're gotten their visa, couldn't hear, and they're gone straight to the police station. Help! She's holding me. Oh Lord. Anyway, moving on. Barrett's going to give us one of his songs, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Elon Musk. Yeah, I know. Boo.
At this point, he might as well be your friend.
Oh Lord. All right, Barrett, what song do you have for us?
Nas Boy. Umbrella.
Oh, I just discovered one of his songs, which I love.
Yeah, it's quite good. Yeah.
All right, here's Nas Boy Umbrella, and see you in 2 minutes.
Ask boy, pẹ̀lú one day go. Hip-hop. 10 seconds I do pass. Waiting be your compass. Fly you around the world. Maldives, Santorini. Why you find Versace? I love you, you're my G. Even if now I'm granted, I go still love you, my one day. Follow bomba to bomba. I go be your defender. When I lose my breath, baby, would you be my healer? Too many things I don't realize. When I'm with you, I dey fantasize. Would you be my only lover? When I'm with you, I'm alive. Me, I don't mind like Babu. But you still love me like this. Even if not taboo, you can still want me my boo. Oh, my Cinderella. Jojo Maro. I be your umbrella. Hippa.
I love language, now money. She likes different currency. Me, I get time and I go dash. I know say you need and pass. I won't fly you go Mexico. I won't buy you panties. I won't do big things for you. I won't do many things for you. Follow bumper to bumper, and I go be your defender. I don't want travel, baby. Me and you go Barcelona. Just like this. Me, I don't find like baboon.
But you still love me like this.
Even if not taboo.
You still want me my boo.
Oh, my Cinderella, Jojo Barro. I be umbrella. Me, I don't find like baboon.
But you still love me like this.
Even if not taboo.
You still want me my boo.
Oh, my Cinderella, Jojo Barro. I be umbrella. Nice boy, party one day.
Yes.
Go. Nice boy, and one go.
Hello, welcome back. All right, let's go straight into our second story of the day. And Baron, do you know that Elon Musk is still causing trouble within him and the South African government?
Yeah.
Yeah, this time over his Starlink license. and he is twisting everything as per usual. But let's talk about it before we make our comments. Let's hear about it. So, a bitter dispute has unfolded between Starlink boss Elon Musk and South Africa after Musk claimed that his satellite internet service was barred due to racial laws. The row centers around the country's black empowerment policies, which could fuel diplomatic tensions between the US and South Africa already has. Elon Musk, CEO of Starlink, had previously sparked controversy by claiming that his satellite internet service was not allowed to operate in South Africa, quote unquote, because I'm not black. Musk, with over 219 million followers on X, made the racially charged statement, but the South African government has denied the claim. The Independent Communications Authority of South Africa noted that Starlink has not applied for a license, and the Foreign Ministry stated that the company could operate if it complies with local laws, particularly black empowerment requirements. South Africa's black empowerment laws mandate that foreign companies must ensure that 30% ownership by historically disadvantaged groups, primarily the black population. Okay. These laws, introduced after apartheid ended in 1990, after apartheid ended in 1994, aim to address the racial economic disparities. Musk has pointed to these laws as the key obstacle for Starlink. The company claims that the laws exclude many foreign operators, but South Africa's foreign ministry emphasized that more than 600 US companies, including Microsoft, successfully operate in compliance with these regulations. Communications Minister Soli Malatsi has proposed finding alternatives to the 30% ownership requirement, which could allow Starlink to operate without a local black partner. However, no progress has been made, with political resistance from lawmakers in the ruling ANC, African National Congress. Kusela Diko, chairman of the Parliamentary Communications Committee, reaffirmed the ANC's stance, arguing that transformation in the tech sector is non-negotiable and that by bypassing laws is not an option. This dispute adds to broader tensions between the US and South Africa, exacerbated by Musk's vocal criticism of the country's policies. Former US President Donald Trump and current one has also contributed to the rift, accusing South Africa of persecuting white farmers, a claim widely dismissed. Musk has linked these allegations to his Starlink struggles. Although Musk met with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in 2003 to discuss investments, the relationship has since soured. Musk now aligns with South Africa's right-wing factions, which oppose black empowerment policies, particularly within the Democratic Alliance. Starlink has faced similar challenges elsewhere in Africa. Lesotho recently granted a 10-year license to the company after pressure from the US, while Namibia is considering an exemption to its local ownership laws. Despite this hurdle, Starlink is operating in over 20 African countries, with success in Nigeria and Somalia. The situation in South Africa, where 20% of the population lacks internet access, shows the potential benefits of Starlink's satellite internet service. A resolution between the government and Musk could help bridge the digital divide and contribute to the country's goal of universal internet access by 2030. To address strained U.S.-South Africa relations, President Ramaphosa has appointed Mibisi Jonas as a special envoy to the U.S. However, the road ahead remains challenging, with the potential for further political and economic fallout if the impasse over Starlink continues. This is beyond the pale. I mean, the rules are set there. There's a reason for the black empowerment policies, and it's so obvious. And if you know even the basic South African history, you know what happened during apartheid. You know what happened during the times when black people had zero empowerment whatsoever. Black people had no empowerment at all in South Africa. They couldn't move freely. They couldn't invest. They had zero. They were completely marginalized in their own country. So when apartheid ended, these policies came into power so that it would address the economic disparities. And you can't say they're not allowing you have a license because you're not black, where as if a racial element should not be discussed, when the entire system before apartheid ended was completely based on race, completely openly spelled out. Policies were in place. Blacks can't do that. Colors can't do that. Whites only could vote. Whites only could to move freely. It was completely based on race. And now, after apartheid ended, this policies come into place to address that disparity and say, if you're a foreign company coming into the country, you must have at least 30% black ownership to address. And companies, I mean, Microsoft, Google, Everybody's in South Africa. Everybody, and they all comply with his laws.
Yeah.
So what makes Starlink so special, different to think they can? And he's muddying the waters. He has 219 Twitter followers. So when he writes on his Twitter irresponsibly and says, South Africa is not allowing me to get a license because I'm not black, it's so disingenuous. But half the people on half of his followers, people who, they don't understand the historical context, or they don't want to. So they take what he says and they run with it, not knowing that this policies are based on actual for particular reasons. Number one. And number two, other foreign country and companies operating seamlessly in South Africa and other African countries have had this disparity problem. In Nigeria, we have local content. So if a multinational is in the country, if you're hiring people, you cannot hire all your own staff from Europe or from around the world. You have to have at least 70% local staff and 30% foreign staff. We have laws like that. In Namibia, Lesotho, all different countries, they all have these rules that allow foreign companies come in, but you must acknowledge the local populace. The only difference is that we based ours on nationality, but in Southern Africa, because of the huge impact, the apartheid and similar policies had on them, they have to base it on race. It has to be a race thing. So you must have at least 30% black partners, black ownership of your company. And other American companies are doing it. Other foreign companies are doing it. So what makes Elon Musk's he just wants to cause a lot of trouble. That's I don't know, Baron, what do you think about all this? And hold on, and they've also pressure, and then Trump is of course is championing this with Musk, right?
Yeah.
And so now Lesotho has decided to waive their own black empowerment policy and allow Starlink get a license. Namibia is considering waiving theirs as well. It's just bullying, and you're not taking the historical context into consideration when you're doing this. What do you think?
Yeah. So I do like what the South African government they're doing. You can't have your way. They have a certain, should I call it, standard? Which you have to follow. If you decided not to follow it and then they don't grant you what assets or what you want,
your license.
Your license. You can't come out and then cry to be the victim.
The thing is, he knows this. He's met with Cyril Ramaphosa in the past. They've had meetings. They've talked about. He knows the policy, but he likes to rabble rouse. He likes to. And now that he has this power and this backing with the U.S., it's like he's trying his best to cause as much trouble, to muddy the waters, because South Africa is really now on the spot in the eyesight of America.
Yeah.
America is talking about white farmers. It's all Elon Musk just whispering in Trump's ear. White farmers are under attack. They're not. White people, they're taking white people's land. They're not. They're just policies that in place to say, oh, let's do it this way. Let's empower people. If this land was gotten wrongly, we need to take that one back. And they still have white people in South Africa still have on the better standard of living. They have more economic success.
Yeah.
So 30 years after apartheid, they still live in the best areas and the best, they own the biggest businesses. And then next you have the Indians and all that. Black, of course, there's a black middle class now, but for a very long time there was no such thing. And black people overwhelmingly live in less economically advantaged situations than the white populace in South Africa. So it's so disingenuous to say, oh, they are attacking white people are in danger in South Africa. They're attacking them and they're losing. What? Why would he cause this rift? And now the first South African envoy to America has been called back because Marco Rubio is like, no. He's not bowing down to us, and he has his own agenda, and he's standing up for his country too much. Now they sent somebody else. Now they're saying that the government is taking white people's land. That just came up last week. Musk is causing a lot of trouble. I don't know what you think the solution is. I know there's some of the ministers who think they should not have the black empowerment policies because it's causing cronyism. So when you have these policies in place, say, okay, 30% must be black, right? So the people who tend to get those positions tend to be like, people who are like in cahoots with the government and it causes corruption, people they know and all that. But that's a separate issue. That happens in every country. Yeah. All right. Yeah. But the policy is the policy. I don't know what you think.
I think Yeah, South Africans should just stand their
Stand their
ground.
ground.
Stand their ground. You can't just give
Yeah.
one man child whoever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct. 100% correct. All right, we're gonna move on now. Baron, you have a song for. If you do not agree with us in any way, or you want to express yourself in any way, please don't hesitate to call. The number is 0141 530 2787. That's 0141 530 2787. You're very welcome to share your opinion, your comments, or if you have any questions, please go ahead. And you're very welcome to disagree with us as well. Or you can write a comment on the Facebook page or the YouTube page live, and we will read it out on air. Okay. Baron, what do you have for us?
So next is Ira Star Away.
That's a good one. I won't call it an oldie. It's not an oldie yet, but it's a good one. All right. Here we go. Ira Star Away.
Make you know they bother with me. Your father, what you wanna acquire with me? Stutter like him. I do not like it when you call me. When you been the flex, with them girls up peace, you the flex. You can't the vex. On top saying no one stress, yeah. So when you gonna understand? You can never be the man I stand. You can never be the one for me. Understand I won't be the girl that used to cry about a man that never came through. He did lie all the time. Let's talk about a fool, yeah. Yeah, you're talking while you're dripping, yeah. You keep talking, so when you gonna understand? You can never be the man I stand. You can never be the one for me. Take away your trouble and leave me be. Away, 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 Afa, tell me why you wanna come here when you know that you're not my type. This ain't gonna pay me. No need to explain, please. This ain't gonna pay me. Away, 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 away. Take all your trouble. Away, 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 away. Take it away from me. Away, away, away.
All right, that was Away by Ira Star. Hope you enjoy that. It's always going to be beautiful every time it's played, no matter how old it gets. All right, moving on, we're going back to our new favorite country to talk about, Baron. That's Burkina Faso. It seems to be very much a hot button topic right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're going to go away from all the politics that have happened in the last couple of days and just like focus on something a bit, I think, positive to me, because President Traore has renamed Charles de Gaulle Boulevard in the capital of Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou, and it's after Thomas Sankara. Did you hear about that?
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah. So as part of the commemoration of the 36th anniversary of Thomas Sankara's assassination on October 15, Boulevard General Charles de Gaulle in the Burkina Faso capital, Ouagadougou, was officially renamed Boulevard Thomas Sankara. Can I get a drum roll for that, please? Wow. All right. Okay, this replaces the country's former colonial ruler with its Pan-Africanist father of independence. The move follows similar trends in Côte d'Ivoire and Senegal. So Daouda Traoré, retired Colonel Major and Vice President of the International Thomas Sankara Memorial Committee, said, "This is the name that drapes this boulevard with a seal of dignity and sovereignty of our people, in keeping with our history, our spirit, and our soul, marked by anti-imperialist convictions." While Burkina Faso has seen a swell in anti-French sentiment, the affirmation of sovereignty through renaming streets and monuments is by no means particular to them. The debate began in Cameroon with the awakening of civil society, says Calvin Sorasi, a Belgian MP of Cameroonian Togolese origin and a former coordinator of Mémoire Coloniale Collective. In Africa and among the diaspora, we see a new movement of appropriating political identity based on notions of sovereignty. In Côte d'Ivoire, Sorasi points to stadiums named after the former Ivorian Prime Minister Charles Kounambani or current President Alassane Ouattara, and names streets named after former President Laurent Gbagbo. In French Presidents Valéry Giscard d'Estaing and François Mitterrand have lost streets and have been replaced respectively by Ivorian Prime Minister and President Félix Houphouët-Boigny and writer and politician German Kofi Gado and First Lady Dominique Ouattara. In Senegal, opposition leader Ousmane Sonko began renaming streets after anti-colonial figures shortly after becoming mayor of Ziguinchor in February 2022. Well, I must say Nigeria has been way ahead on this. We started that in the 90s.
Yeah.
We started in the 90s. And I remember, I don't know how you feel about this, Baron, because I think we've talked about this before. My father is very double-minded about this because he grew up in pre-colonial rule.
Yeah.
Sorry, in colonial rule and then post-colonial rule, which is independence. And he not like he had anything. Was not crazy about the English or obsessed with the English, but it just he was a respecter of history, and to him these names have a historical context, right? And they allow you ask questions and learn. Mm-hmm. So, for example, we have a very major road in Lagos in Ikoyi it used to be called Kingsway. And now it's called Alfred Rwani Drive was Queen's Drive. So Kingsway is now called, oh my goodness, what's it called? It's called after a Nigerian, one of the colonialists, anti-colonialists, right? Mm-hmm. A major figure in the fight for independence. And my dad is like, why would you change it? Because if you change it, the kids who are coming up now will never know what it was called, and they won't be able to ask questions. But if it remains at Kingsway, you'd be like, why is it called Kingsway? And then you say it's because the king, whatever his name, once drove past this. And we have Queen's Drive as well. The Queen Elizabeth, when she visited Nigeria, she drove on the street. She stayed here, so it's called Queen's Drive. Yeah. This is called, Lugard Avenue after Lord Lugard, our first, governor, our first, leader, Governor General of Nigeria, whatever. Mm-hmm. This is called this is called that. These are the reasons why they're called these names. But now all those names have been changed to Nigerian businessmen, heroes, historical figures, independence, freedom fighters, and all of that. So on one sense, I'm proud of it. I'm proud that we don't have our streets named after, I won't say random, after British colonialists and their own great people. But at the same time, are we losing that history when we do this? I mean, hats off to Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, and now Burkina Faso for doing this. But do you think we're losing history when you do that?
No.
No? You rather write the history in the book. Write it in the book.
Yeah, let me book. I mean, there's history all over the place. There's in some places that old structures. It's there in books, so why
name your streets?
Yeah, names on the streets.
But also, you never come to Europe and see Europe named after great European streets named after great Africans and South Americans and all that. But at the same time, we do have in almost every European street city, we have a Nelson Mandela. I mean, we're the first in Scotland. I think we're the first to actually offer Mandela a key to the city, even while he was still imprisoned. He wasn't free yet, you know. So we did that in Scotland. So there is a Nelson Mandela place, and I'm sure there are other parts of Europe that have Nelson Mandela places, and maybe other similar, really, really high-profile African freedom fighters. What do you think? So there is that. It's not common though.
No, it's not. So, and again, the names on the street will always remind us of, you know,
of what went wrong.
Yeah, what went yeah.
Yeah, I think I've never quite figured this one out. It's like you said, maybe the history should stay in the books. You write about it, make video. Now we have YouTube, we can historical channels, we have books, we have museums. We can talk about colonialism in all those formats. But maybe our streets should not be named after colonial masters.
Yeah.
And the big one in Burkina Faso is the big Charles de Gaulle, Boulevard Charles de Gaulle. Who was a great man in France, but he was a pure colonialist as well. So why celebrate people who took over your land? Yeah, I get it. Okay, if you disagree and you think it should stay for historical reasons and to be able to tell the next generations what this was and why it was, please do not hesitate to join the conversation. And if you agree with us, same, you're welcome as well. But congratulations, Burkina Faso, in the first instance. The number to call is 0141-530-2787. Phone lines are open. Just call in and we'll have you talking on the radio. All right. One more song and then we are going to do our travel segment, which I think you're going to love, Baron. This one is for you, actually.
Okay.
All right, what do we have?
So next is Rude Boy from P Square.
Okay.
Audio Money.
Which one is Rude Boy? Is it Peter or Paul?
I'm confused as well.
So Rude Boy from P Square.
Right.
Here we go.
Everybody reach for Instagram. Poor man no day for Instagram. They call me like saying I'm Mr. Living fake life with cheap data. Hey, back party wo. The money na just audio. Na audio. Hey, back party wo. Na just audio. Slow down. Why you want kill yourself? Why you want by yourself? Living fake life with a loca. Calm down. Kill yourself. Why you walk by yourself? Living fake la vida loca. Hey, back party wo. The money na just audio. Na audio. Hey, back party wo. Na just audio. Hey, back party wo. The money na just audio. Na audio. Hey, back party wo. Na just audio. You were the form giveaway. Your landlord they chase you away. Your family them you don't sideline. Oh, they blow you they blow timeline. 10 billion I'm flossing. Too much money can be nothing. So turn down the volume of your radio. The money when we don't see the audio. I count the red perere. Your body they shot elele. Yeah. Them they hail you. Oh, who they slap you. Yeah. So slow down. Why you want kill yourself? Why you walk by yourself? Living fake la vida loca. Calm down. Why you want kill yourself? Why you walk by yourself? Living fake la vida loca. Hey, back party wo. The money na just audio. Na audio. Hey, back party wo. Na just audio. Hey, back party wo. The money na just audio. Na audio. Hey, back party wo. I just audio. Who get here may they hear. The life them they show be here. They pick up the stones when nobody throw them. And build a mansion in the air. Slow down, my brother. Oh no. Calm down, my sister. Cause the money that audio. I can't the red perere. Your body they shot elele. Yeah. Them they hail you. Oh, who they slap you.
So slow down, slow down. Why you want kill yourself? Why you want by yourself? Living fake la vida loca. Calm down, calm down. Why you want kill yourself? Why you want by yourself? Living fake la vida loca. Hey, Mac Barrio, the money na just audio, na audio. Hey, Mac Barrio, na just audio. Hey, Mac Barrio, the money na just audio, na audio. Hey, Mac Barrio, na just audio.
That was really nice. I like that. That was really nice. What's it called?
Audio money.
Audio.
Yeah, audio.
Audio money.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. I like that.
Right.
All right. Moving on. We're going to have our travel segment now. I'm doing the things a little different today. We're not going to focus on one African country or one African destination, or like we did last week, the best places for Africans to visit. What we're going to do is, we've been talking about passports for so long, passport mobility for so long.
Yeah.
So I decided we're going to go with our friends at Let's Go, on YouTube. And they have ranked the 10 most powerful passports in the world. So let's see if any of our passports are on any African passports, or what these passports can afford you when you're traveling around the world.
All right.
And maybe we should consider or think about maybe adopting some of these passports if you really want travel mobility. I mean, it's still part of African travel umbrella, because what can it offer us Africans who are traveling around the world? So I'm curious. What do you think is going to be number one on the list?
Number one, Singapore.
Oh, why do you say that?
I think I've seen it. Singapore or Netherlands.
Okay, all right. I was thinking Japan, but
Oh, Japan as well.
but we
Yeah.
we don't have to wait. We can find out right away.
So
So here is a video from our friends on Let's Go, and these are the most powerful world passports in the world as of 2025. Let's check it out.
Imagine having the keys to 193 countries in the palm of your hand. The power to traverse continents, explore hidden corners of the globe, conduct business freely, or choose a new home wherever you fancy, all without ever applying for a visa in advance. Sounds like the stuff of fantasy, right? But for a select few, it's a reality. A few who hold the elite passports. So, what makes a passport powerful? And which of these nations hold the golden tickets in 2023? Well, let's find out. Number 10. Lithuania, Slovakia. At number 10, Slovakia and Lithuania have passports allowing travel to an astounding 184 countries. A Lithuanian passport serves as a key to unlocking Europe as a proud member of the European Union. Lithuanians can easily travel without a visa throughout the European Union, EU, and nearby countries, including Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland. But that's not all. Their passport facilitates visa applications for dream destinations like the United States and Canada. And if you're a business-minded person, picture having the ability to reside and conduct business without restrictions in other nations. Now let's take a look at Slovakia, another passport superpower. Slovak nationals enjoy the benefits of being an EU member and all the advantages that come with having access to EU rights. However, applicants must meet specific conditions to become eligible for Slovak citizenship throughout naturalization. These requirements include establishing continuous permanent residency in Slovakia for at least 8 years, passing a probity test following the act of citizenship of the Slovak Republic, and proving language competency and familiarity with the Slovak Republic. Number 9. Hungary, Poland. With a Hungarian or Polish passport, you can visit 185 countries without the burden of acquiring a visa in advance. It seems to reason that these passports are among the most powerful in the world. In Poland, obtaining citizenship requires at least 8 years of residency, divided between 3 years of permanent residence and 5 years of temporary residence. Nevertheless, the procedure can be accelerated if you're married to a citizen or of Polish descent. In the meantime, getting Hungarian citizenship has its own challenges. Suppose you don't have any Hungarian relatives. In that case, you'll need to learn the complexities of one of the most challenging languages in the world, Hungarian, and have lived in Hungary continuously for at least 8 years. Number 8. Australia, Canada, Greece, and Malta. Australia, Canada, Greece, and Malta are in the 8th place. These nations share a particular benefit that allows citizens of those countries to travel visa-free to an incredible 186 countries. Australia and Canada use a points-based system for residence. Becoming a citizen of these nations takes a certain amount of time and compliance with certain requirements. But now we turn our attention to Malta, the actual star in this group. Malta has an attractive option for obtaining citizenship through investment. Interestingly, you can get a Maltese passport provided you're ready to invest a certain sum in the nation. For instance, you might become a citizen of Malta in just 1 year by contributing 700,000 euros to the National Development Fund. Alternatively, you can get the chance in 3 years if you contribute 600,000 euros. Number 7. Belgium, New Zealand, Norway, Switzerland, United States, and Czech Republic. If you have a passport from New Zealand, Norway, the Czech Republic, Belgium, Switzerland, or the United States, prepare for an unforgettable journey. Without the trouble of acquiring an advance visa, you can go to a whopping 187 nations. Now, let's focus on the advantages of having a Norwegian, Belgian, or Swiss passport. Except for holders of US and New Zealand passports, anyone holding one of these documents is permitted to travel within the nations that make up the European Union and the European Economic Area. But here's the thing, each nation has different procedures for getting citizenship. Although widely sought after, US citizenship is recognized for having strict requirements. Moreover, having Swiss citizenship has its share of challenges. The easiest to gain citizenship, though, is Belgian citizenship. You can become a proud Belgian citizen by staying in Belgium for at least 5 years and gaining enough proficiency in one of the official languages, French, German, or Flemish. But in the end, your citizenship will offer several advantages, such as free welfare and education, just like other EU passports. So it's quite worth it. Number 6. France, Ireland, Portugal, and United Kingdom. Portugal, Ireland, France, and United Kingdom are tied in the 6th place. These nations provide some of the most powerful passports in the world, enabling you to travel freely to an astounding 188 countries without worrying about getting a visa in advance. First, let's focus on Portugal, Ireland, and France, where passport holders can use benefits and services offered by the European Union, except for the UK. Well, you can travel, live, work, study, conduct business, and even retire in various nations if you own one of these passports. However, the UK passport, while theoretically powerful due to its thriving economy, has limitations. You can travel freely, but you won't be able to live, work, study, or conduct business in the 30 nations that make up the EU, EEA, and Switzerland. Now let's discuss citizenship. All 4 countries have relatively minimal residency requirements of only 5 years before you may apply. However, you must possess a B1 level of French language proficiency to be eligible for French citizenship. On the other hand, Portugal is a desirable alternative for Americans due to its eased A2 level Portuguese skill requirement. Language proficiency except for English is not a requirement for British or Irish citizenship. Number 5. Austria, Denmark, Netherlands, and Sweden. With passports that let you travel to an astonishing 189 countries and save the stress for applying for visas, these 4 nations proudly hold a joint 5th place on the HPI. But that's not all. The potential for obtaining citizenship in the European Union makes these passports even more tempting. After residing there for 5 years, you can seek citizenship in the Netherlands and Sweden. And because Sweden accepts dual citizenship, you can keep your original passport. But other than in rare circumstances, the Netherlands does typically not allow dual citizenship. On the other hand, the citizenship process takes longer in Denmark and Austria. For Danish citizenship, you must have lived there for at least 9 years. But Austria typically demands 10 years, with at least 5 of those years spent as a permanent resident. You must also pass a language test in both nations, which adds another difficulty level. Number 4. Finland, Italy, and Luxembourg. Imagine having a passport that allows you visa-free entry into 190 different nations. With the help of the passports of Finland, Italy, and Luxembourg, this dream is now a reality. These exceptional travel companions grant you the desired privilege of being a citizen of the European Union and unlocking the globe to you. The process of obtaining citizenship is most clearly laid out in Luxembourg. You can become a citizen of Luxembourg with just 5 years of residency and B1 level language skills. And due to Luxembourg's recognition of dual citizenship, you may continue using your original passport. On the other hand, Italy supports dual citizenship as well. However, a longer route of 10 years of residency is necessary. You'll need to demonstrate your Italian language proficiency along the route with a B1 level or better. Finland has a minimum residency requirement of 5 years as well. And by the way, the country calls for intermediate level proficiency in the language. The good news is that dual nationality is accepted. Number 3, Germany and Spain. Germany and Spain have visa-free access to 191 countries worldwide, making them 2 of Europe's most formidable passports. Germany has 145 countries where visas are not required, allowing citizens to visit up to 87% of the world. If German nationals wish to go to the United States of America, they must obtain an electronic travel authorization. German citizens can travel visa-free for up to 180 days to nations like the United Kingdom and Mexico. Coming to Spain, here passport holders have fantastic travel benefits. For countries like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United States, Spanish explorers need an ETA. But beware, visa restrictions await them in places like Russia, Syria, North Korea, China, and many more. Becoming a citizen of these 2 powerful nations comes with its hurdles. To become a citizen, you must have lived in Germany for at least 8 years and pass a language test at the B1 level or above. While the process to obtain Spanish citizenship takes 10 years and a Spanish language exam at the A2 level or higher. Moreover, there might be some unique exceptions along the road, even though Germany and Spain usually don't accept dual citizenship. Number 2, South Korea. South Korea comes in second. With its powerful passport, you can travel visa-free to 192 nations. Yes, you heard that right. South Korea is here to fuel your wanderlust as adventure awaits. To become a citizen, there are 3 basic ways: residence, familial ties, or business ownership. The most typical option, residency, has specific requirements. You must be at least 20 years old, have a Korean address, an alien registration card, and be qualified to work in South Korea. Good conduct and basic knowledge of the local language, customs, and culture are also required. Number 1, Japan and Singapore. Regarding the most travel-friendly passports, there is no change at the top. Japan and Singapore continue to lead the pack as they have for several years. These 2 nations have held onto the top spots for several years, granting holders of passports the freedom to travel to a whopping 193 countries without obtaining visas. Foreigners must have lived in Japan continuously for 5 years before applying for citizenship under their nationality law. Additional conditions include having upright conduct and having sufficient financial means to support oneself in Japan. The good news is that the language requirements are not excessively burdensome. On the other hand, Singapore requires at least 2 years of continuous permanent residency before starting the naturalization process to become a citizen. You can also become a permanent resident in Singapore by investing 2.5 million Singapore dollars in the economy or holding an employment pass with a monthly salary of at least 2,500 SGD. Another way is to present your business, provided it has a minimum of 50 million Singapore dollars in annual revenue. As we
Wow. I don't know what happened at the end there, but I think we got the idea that Singapore and Japan are leading the pack when it comes to powerful passports. You can travel almost anywhere. So if you want to try your luck, Baron, after watching this video and looking at the list, is any country that strikes your fancy as maybe, if you don't decide to stay in the UK and you want to go somewhere else and go somewhere else and get their own passport, follow their own, residency process? Any country kind of catch your eye?
I'm not sure. I'll have to go through the list again, but I think about going somewhere and then learning the language again. So it has to be somewhere where the language is not really, they're not big on the language for you to.
When you were in Ukraine, did you learn a lot of Ukrainian?
Yeah, so in Ukraine at first I lived in the eastern part, very close to the Russian border, and there
is more Russian.
And then when the Russian thing happened at first, then we moved to the eastern part of western part of Ukraine. Then it was more Ukrainian then. So
you speak both?
I try.
Wow. Do you into music in Russian and stuff like that? Do you watch movies in Russian and all that?
Well, when I watch movies and then start speaking Russian,
you get it.
Yeah, I get it.
Wow, that's brilliant. So that's what you speak. English, Russian, Ukrainian.
More Russian than Ukrainian.
More Ukrainian. Wow. Okay, so one of these days we're gonna do the show in Russian, and you're gonna host it, and I'm just gonna be at the back. I don't know. I'm very, as you know, I'm extremely Scottish. I'm Nigerian. I'm Scottish. I'm Nigerian. I'm Scottish. That's my thing. So I don't think I want to get another citizenship. But if I wasn't Scottish or Afro-Scottish, I would probably think Belgium, because I already speak the language, so that would be easy.
Is that French?
Yeah, French. They speak French, speak Flemish, Flemish and Dutch. So Flemish is Dutch with an accent. It's the same language. It's just the accent is different, but it's the same language. If you speak Dutch, you can understand Flemish, and I think German as well in some areas.
Yeah.
But French in Brussels and all that part. I think Flemish in like the East Coast area, and then German in some other parts. So yeah, so I already speak French, so that's fine. That will work. And then I think it's just living there for 5 years. And what was the other thing? It wasn't much. It was living there for 5 years, speaking the language. That was basically it.
That's all.
So yeah. Belgium sounds good, but then you think about what the Belgians did in the Congo, like separate the history. I don't know if I can separate the history, because you have to be proud, when you live in a place, you have to be proud of the place, of the history and all that stuff. So it'd be very hard for me as an African to say I live in Belgium and I really love, you need to want to love where you live and love everything about it. But when you think about the history, it's like it'd be hard to hold on to that and say, I live here and I'm proud to live here and I'm proud about it. Would be tricky for me. But I guess people do that in America. America has a dodgy history as well, but people live there, they love it, they love the country, and
people are trying to find ways to even go there still.
Exactly, even though and then when you're there, you're meant to like truly be patriotic and love America and all that stuff. So it's a dance you have to do. You want something good for your future, and at the same time you want to also be true to yourself. But yeah, Belgium didn't have that dodgy history, and I didn't like Scotland so much, then it would be Belgium. But apart from that, Japan sounds amazing. Singapore sounds really bougie, like they'll bring $50 million and then we'll give you citizenship, please. I'll visit and leave. Well, anyway, listeners, if you watch the video with us or listen to it on audio, and anything caught your fancy, let us know. These are the most powerful passports in the world. They unlock the globe to you and allow you travel, restriction free. And some of the countries allow you live there, work there, restriction free as well. It's very, very interesting. Maybe one of these days we will get our own African passports on the list. But I mean, in Africa itself, South African passport is highly sought after. A Namibian passport allows you to travel very well without any visas. Right. I would say, who else? I think the people in the North Africa as well have less trouble traveling. I don't know too much, but I do know Namibia and South Africa do give you a lot of mobility when it comes to travel. You remember Tayo? I know he went and bought a St. Kitts and Nevis passport.
It was over 200,000.
Yeah, but he's unlocked the globe to him and has allowed him to travel everywhere. He should have got a Maltese passport. All right, that was our travel segment. If you have any opinions on that, or you want to go for one of those passports, go for it, or let us know what you think about that. So the numbers to call as always 0141 530 2787. That's 0141 530 2787. All right, we're moving to part 2 in just a couple of minutes. But before that, we will talk about what Baron has for us.
Okay, so next is King Promise, Perfect Combi.
All right.
Perfect combination.
Yes,
in it.
I got it.
Your baby last night with the big. She said she had a man, but she still gave me that number. Be like she know, say I demand weakness for the biggie, for the biggie, yeah.
So what about a vibe? Is she just nice? Tell me what she like. If she got a man, she think twice. The face fine.
Said her face fine, yeah, she fine, of course. She did talk much and I'm quiet, of course. Perfect combi. She did do me things and I can't deny.
Perfect combi. Slim. My face perfect, come be you. She the one. She don't look anybody. Face perfect, come be you. Slim. My face perfect, come be you. She the one way. She don't look anybody. Face perfect, come be you.
Me bawa kume mu ko. Anything you they want. Now baby I'm a top mama vo.
Ka. Girl, I'm knocking down your front door. Tryna give you everything I'm more. If there's anything you need, just call. Wow.
Girl, this touch you got go sweet oh. Make a man want this time for real oh. Make I know what's up, what's the deal oh. All in my what's up.
She got about a vibe. She just nice. Tell me what she like. She got a mind. She think twice. Is the face fine?
Said her face fine, yeah, she fine of course. She did talk much and I'm quiet of course. Perfect come be you. She did do me things and I can't deny.
Perfect come be you. Slim. My face perfect come be you. She the one. She don't look anybody. Face perfect come be you. Slim. My face perfect come be you. She the one. She don't look anybody. Face perfect come be you. Slim. My face perfect come be you. She the one. She don't look anybody. Face perfect come be you. Slim. My face perfect come be you. She the one. She don't look anybody. Face perfect come be you.
All right, everybody, welcome back. That's the perfect combination. What they're talking about is Baron and I working together. So I have like the presenting chops, and Baron has like the intellectual takes and the great producing chops. So that's the perfect combination, right? The song's about us, right, Baron?
Yes.
The
That's
song's
our song,
about us for sure. It has nothing to do with fine face, fine slim waist, and all that. It's Baron and BB. You see, BB. See, look at that. Look at that. BB. Producer, presenter, perfect combination.
Yeah.
Yay. All right, guys, it's time for our African Spotlight segment. And every week we focus on a good news story or an interesting story from the diaspora, on someone doing amazing things in the community. However, this week we're going to talk about the upcoming vote for cardinal and for Pope. Did you know that 2 African cardinals might be, in the running? We might get an African Pope.
I saw one. I didn't know about the second one.
Yeah, so there's a possibility. This week we're shining our spotlight on the 2 African cardinals that could become the first pope. Get ready, from sub-Saharan Africa. Woo! Yes. All right, well done. All right, let's hear some more. So, Catholic cardinals are meeting right now to elect a new pope following the death of Pope Francis. Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church, has passed away at the age of 88, which we know. Following his funeral, the College of Cardinals have entered a conclave to elect the next pontiff. The conclave usually begins 15 to 20 days after the Pope's death or resignation. And as tributes pour in for the late Pope, 2 African cardinals have been named as potential candidates to succeed him. With more than 250 million Catholics, Africa is home to some of the world's fastest growing Catholic populations. However, for over 1,500 years, the continent has not often been considered for Vatican leadership. Popes have largely come from Italy, with a few others from France, Germany, and Portugal. 3, however, have come from Africa Proconsularis, a Roman province that's modern-day Tunisia, and that was very, very, very early on in the religion. If one of the 2 African popes is elected, he will be the first black pope in centuries, or the first from sub-Saharan Africa. I don't like that term, by the way. All right, so we find out who they are. The first one is Peter Turkson, Cardinal Peter Turkson.
Where is he from?
I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
The 76-year-old from Ghana
Okay.
Are you okay, Byron? You
Okay.
got it?
Ghana 1-0.
All right. The 76-year-old from Ghana is a former head of the Vatican's dicastery for promoting integral human development. Known for his strong communication skills, he has been vocal on issues such as poverty and climate change, corruption, human rights, economic justice, and homosexuality. Some believe his opinion on homosexuality is now not as strong as before, particularly after his comments that laws against the practice in many African countries are too harsh. So he used to be really anti-homosexuality, and now he's like,
Okay.
Right. All the same, his work with Pope Francis advising him on issues including climate change and social justice give him an upper hand. Born in Vassau in Suta, in what was then called the Gold Coast in the British Empire, his father worked as a carpenter and in a mine while his mother was a trader. Turkson studied at seminaries in Ghana and New York before being ordained in 1975. He became a teacher in his former Ghanaian seminary and did advanced biblical studies in Rome before Pope John Paul appointed him Archbishop of Cape Coast in 1992. 11 years later, Pope John Paul again made him the first cardinal in the history of Ghana. That's amazing. In 2009, Turkson was brought to the Vatican by Pope Benedict, who made him the head of the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace. As head of that council, he often attended conferences such as the Davos Economic Forum, discussing global challenges and solutions. And in 2026, however, Pope Francis merged Turkson's department with 3 other offices, leading to Turkson's resignation from his role in 2021. He was subsequently appointed to head 2 pontifical academies on sciences and social sciences. So he has the accolades, he has the chops, he has the qualifications for this job. He's also 76. Yeah, they love them some older candidates.
Okay.
All right, number 2, Cardinal Robert Sarah. The 79-year-old was prefect of the Congregation for Divine Worship and Discipline of the Sacraments until 2021. Described as a conservative voice, Sarah made headlines in 2020 when he co-authored a book with the then retired Pope Benedict defending clerical celibacy. Yep. At the time, Pope Francis was looking at whether to allow married priests in the Amazon to cater to the shortage of priests there. Critics accused Sarah of challenging Francis' authority, as the two had clashed earlier on different topics before the book release. Still, the retired head of the Vatican's liturgy office is seen by many as the best person to be made an African pope. Born in 1940 in Oroussas in Guinea, Sarah studied in Ivory Coast, Rome, and Jerusalem before being ordained in 1969. His parents reportedly converted from animism. That's African religion, by the way. Right. That's a fancy way of saying African traditional religion.
Yeah.
Animism. That's, worshipping, the spirits.
Okay.
When Sarah was 34, he became the youngest bishop in the world when he was appointed Archbishop of Conakry. He served almost 10 years as secretary of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples before he rose to cardinal in 2010. He attended the conclave that elected Pope Francis and was later named prefect of the Congregation for Divine Worship by Pope Francis in 2014. He believes that quote-unquote gender ideology is a threat to society and has criticized Islamic fundamentalism. Well, that's him out. Right. So, Baron, what do you think? Are you Catholic, Baron?
No, I'm not.
What are you? Are you religious?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, well, we have Catholics and we have all of y'all. Well, do you know much about Catholicism?
Yeah, I did. I went to Catholic school.
Okay, good.
Yeah, secondary
Okay.
school, yeah.
All right. So I'm Catholic, and this is it's interesting to us. I'm also African, so that's even more interesting to see. Oh, but I don't. Is it going to be a big deal if we get an African pope? Maybe. Is it going to fuel some of the far right people who are already making a lot of noise right now?
Yes.
Yeah. Will that put a little sand in their eye? Will that make me happy because they'll just stick it to them? But I don't care about sticking it to them. I care about the right person for the job. If you look at those two candidates personally, I would go with Cardinal Tucker. I think Cardinal Sarah, he's the one everybody's like, oh yeah, he's the guy. Yeah. But I think he's too conservative for me. I think Cardinal Tucker for me seems a bit more, I would say liberal, but level-minded when it comes to things, and he's more into science as well.
And if we do get an African pope, they'll be looking at everything
He does, every mistake.
Microscope.
So in that case, Cardinal Sarah probably is the best person for the job, because he kind of like already is on that side of things, and is quite, right in his thinking, and he's against Islamic fundamentalism and all of that. He challenged Pope Francis later on, because first was too liberal for him, I guess, and all of that. So he already is quite on that end. So I don't think they'll have too much to say. People on the right, you know what I mean? But as a more neutral person, I think Cardinal Tucker fits the bill. But who knows? This could all be just us just talking. It might be neither of them. They might just give us hope, and it might be neither of them. But we shall see.
I won't be surprised
if one of them comes, or if none of them, neither
if
of them.
None of them.
Yeah, I'm surprised. No, I'm surprised. Yeah. Okay. So, questions for the day. Number 1, audience. What would having an African Pope mean to you personally? And number 2, what importance is having an African Pope to the African diaspora? Is it that important? Is it symbolic? Would it be really something powerful and effective, or is it just symbolic? What does it mean? What does it mean to the diaspora? How important is it to the diaspora? Baron, just a quick take. What do you think? First question. Yeah. What would having an African Pope mean to you personally? I know you're not Catholic, but in general.
Well, to me, it would be good to see someone that looks like me there for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's basically it. And then also,
how important is having an African Pope to the African diaspora?
I think it will, in a way, bring the Africans
a pride. Recognition.
Maybe bring them close to God as well. Because seeing an African, they to be like a how do I say it? Already some people see Christianity as a white man's religion. So seeing an African Pope, they will maybe it's not.
I don't know. I think of all the peoples in the world right now, I think the closest to God right now is Africa. I don't think we need any help, any extra help in being closer to God, honestly. Unless you talk about maybe the new generation, they're questioning things. But historically, ever since our friends from Europe brought the religion, we've kind of like taken it from. In fact, I'll tell the craziest story.
Yeah.
I was on a train once, and this guy sat beside me, and we just started talking, and he was working had a regular job, 9 to 5, but he also was working the church, Redeemed Church in London, one of the branches. And he was like talking, he says their aim, this was about 15 years ago, their aim is to bring Christianity to the white man. I almost fell out of my chair. Like, he's like, that's what he means in England.
Yeah.
What he meant was he's noticed that there are not a lot of native English who are religious. So the aim of their church was to bring Christianity to the white man. I'm like, are you hearing the words that could? And he didn't say it ironically. He didn't say it as a joke. He was straight up serious. Yeah. And he did not connect the history, like the white man bringing religion to Africa.
Yeah.
He didn't. No connection there. All he knows is that he's a Christian. He works for Redeemed, he's a Pentecostal Christian, and now he's in England. Yeah. He lives in England, and now he's working the church, and now he's seeing that the local people are not really going to church. So he's bringing Christianity to the white man. I'm like, you cannot write this. You can't make this up. I just went, okay.
Yeah, good luck.
I don't think he even had he didn't make the historical connect. It was completely disconnected from, for what had happened in the past. Who gave you the religion in the first place? They're selling it back, they're giving it back. Right. Okay, so listeners, the question for the day, as we said, was number 1, what would having an African Pope mean to you personally? And number 2, how important is having an African Pope to the African diaspora? If you want to talk about it, you know what to do. Send us a WhatsApp message, give us a call, write a comment on the live, and the number to call is 0141-530-2787. All right, and while we wait, Baron, what do you have for us?
So next is Nasboy again, yay, and it's Could This Be Love?
Yay, I love that song.
Right.
Someone remixes to Food. Food is my lover. There's something about food. All right, here we go. Here's Nazboy and Could This Be Love. I think is it not a collaboration with somebody else?
Yeah, so it's him and
Chike?
Yes.
Chike.
Yes, yeah.
So Chike, look at me knowing new music. Look at
See?
this Chike and Nazboy with Could This Be Love. Enjoy, guys.
I can't even sleep for night. I carry you for my mind. I don't think of you. Calamity for my head. I can't even hold myself. I want to take some selfies. Olorun onije. God no figure, make them take you away from me. I don't think of my mind they lose. Odo yewu, who yewo? Can I be all over? Don't leave me sober. Without you, my girl, say this life will be over. Life is nothing without you. There is something about you. Could this be love? Oh, shit, I love her. Life is nothing without you. There is something about you. Could this be love? Oh, shit, I love her.
24/7, I just think of you, my baby. Any other person, no get level, I promise you. My heart is for you, my life is for you, and my life is nothing without you, girl. I want you to know. Oh, no, you're my baby. I love you to God. Oh, when you get a woman, baby, I need you for sure.
Life is nothing without you. There is something about you. Could this be love? Oh,
Could this be love?
Life is nothing without you. There is something about you. Could this be love? Should I love her?
Hi guys, we are back. Okay, it's now time for our first of all, welcome back to BB's African News Magazine show on Jambo Radio. Just in case you didn't know what you were listening to, I'm here with Baron today. We're having an incredible time, and like we already established, we are the perfect what?
Combination.
Perfect. That's gonna be our tagline from now on. All right, it's time for our Have You Heard segment, and every week we share an interesting development, story, or event from the diaspora. Okay, so you know it's a positive show, but sometimes you have to introduce some topics where it's a bit heavy, but then we'll find the light at the end of it. So let's do that this time. So today we're asking, have you heard that the widower of Nigerian gospel singer Osinachi Nwachukwu has been sentenced to death by hanging in connection with her death? Did you hear about that?
No.
You know Osinachi the singer, the one that died a few years ago?
No.
All right, okay, I'll tell you. Let's hear about it. No? The question is no? And let's hear about it. So, the widower of popular Nigerian gospel singer Osinachi Nwachukwu has been sentenced to death by hanging in connection with her death 3 years ago. The 42-year-old singer was initially said to have died of throat cancer before her family went public with allegations of domestic violence. They accused her husband Peter Nwachukwu of abusing the musical artist, which ultimately led to her death. A judge convicted him of 23 charges, including culpable homicide, and giving the maximum sentence for the crime. It's unclear if Peter Nwachukwu, who denied the charges, will be executed, as authorities rarely implement the death sentence, and he has the right to appeal. The case, held in the High Court in the capital Abuja, has drawn much attention in Nigeria because of the musician's prominence and widespread concern about domestic violence. The late singer, who is survived by 4 children, was featured on the 27-hit gospel song Ekweme External, which has more than 136 million views on YouTube. Peter Nwachukwu, who was arrested in 2022, was also charged with emotional, verbal, and psychological abuse, cruelty to children, and criminal intimidation of children. 17 people, including 2 of the couple's children, were called by the prosecution as witnesses during the trial. Osinachi died aged 42, with domestic violence largely attributed to her death, like we established. She gained Justice Indijeka Njideka Wosuiheme found the widower guilty of all charges, saying that the prosecution had proven its case beyond reasonable doubt. She sentenced the deceased spouse to death by hanging for homicide, while other offences attracted respective jail sentences ranging from 6 months to 3 years. Okay, so that was heavy. However, my reason for bringing it to the fore was talk about how people are getting consequences for certain things that in the past we've brushed under the carpet.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is because in this case she was quite popular, and it was a big furore on social media. I remember when this was 2 years ago. This happened 3 years ago, and there was a big furore. Her pictures were shown, her music, her songs, and people talked about how she was hiding. So she's always in church, singing gospel songs, preaching about, marriage, and you should be in marriage, you should be happy, and and submission to husbands and all that stuff, all the normal stuff.
Yeah.
And she was being abused at home, right? And when you die from domestic abuse, it didn't happen in one day. You don't just get abused one time and then you die from it.
Yeah.
You're broken down. Okay, so you've been abused for a long time. So this was happening to her over quite a period of time, and she, people in her circle probably knew about it, children knew about it, and now it led to her death. Okay, so the fact that he's being sentenced, in this ultimate way, I think it's a good sign to show that people are taking this seriously, and maybe it might be a wake-up call to some men or even women who are abusing their partners, that this could actually go all the way. It's not going to be something you go to the police station and they go, oh, go say sorry, and then madam, sorry now, and all that, and then you keep getting hurt over time. You could actually be arrested, actually be convicted, and be sentenced to death. Now, on the other hand, I was looking at all the comments, and there are many people, men, on social media, and some women who are saying, oh, it's too harsh, it's not fair, and the children are now going to be orphans, and this and that. I'm like, the children are already orphans. One of the charges was intimidating the children to make sure that they didn't testify against him, number one. Number two, he killed their mother. They already have no parent, and he was not going to come out of jail. Even if they didn't give him life in prison, he was going to be away for a very long time. So, but a lot of people were like, oh, it's not fair, it's too harsh. I'm like, somebody actually died. Somebody even tried to blame her. Yeah, but somebody died, and somebody must pay for that. So what do you think? Do you think it's too harsh? Do you think it's a good sign that the justice system can be used well in some instances for justice?
I don't think it's too harsh. Domestic abuse is one thing that should be frowned against on whether is a
famous person.
Yeah, a famous person or not. Whether it's a man abusing the woman or the reverse, should be frowned upon. I think it should be looked more into, especially in Nigeria, because I don't think people really take this serious. And also, families should let whoever is on the end of or who the abuse is to take it up and then report it.
And support them as well. Yeah.
So saying, oh yeah, you just stay, for this, for that, just stay. And then the government as well, they should do more of this.
Yeah. But if half the government officials are abusing their own wives in the house, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And again, it took a while. Say it was 3 years ago.
Yes.
Say surely there must have been some investigation. I think so. So I believe it's not harsh. It's not harsh. It's the right thing to do.
It is, and I think this also, like I said, send a warning sign to people to say, don't do this. You can end up like him. And number two, people who domestic abuse, they're very brave. I think the bravery is actually on the perpetrator. Like, how can you think you can do this and not get consequences? What if you push her one time too many, and then she really retaliates? Like, there are vulnerable points in life. There are vulnerable points. You could be asleep. You could be away. You could be this. Your food. You're this. You abuse somebody, and you think they're not going to retaliate at some point. Human nature being what it is. I guess they know how to break people down in a way that they know that they've conditioned them not to retaliate or feel like they need to, make you feel, even apologize for the abuse because you're like, oh, I'm so sorry I made you do this, or whatever reason, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're taking a huge risk when you're abusing someone, because at any point that person could wake up and go, I can't take this anymore, and then you're going to be a massive victim yourself.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, you abuse someone and then you still eating our food.
You know what I mean? And sleeping
in
the sleep of the innocence, like it's crazy.
Okay, you must be very brave then.
Very exactly. I always think about. I was like, wow, you must be really confident that your manipulation skills are very strong. That that she's never going to hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody juju be that.
It's very sad that she had to die. Like at the end of the day, death is so final.
Yeah.
No matter what we go through, it becomes an interesting story as long as we survive. So no matter how bad whatever it is, or how crazy or eventful or whatever it is you go, traumatic or anything, even a kidnapping event, anything could be a crazy, interesting, sad, happy, whatever story later on, as long as that person survives.
Yeah.
But when you die in that trauma, in that process, and it's so final that it's almost like, what was it for? So she's died. I wish she had, even though she was being abused domestically, if she had survived, she could maybe later on the other side go, this happened to me, that happened to me, don't let it happen to you, and she could have been an example, and she could go on to live her life as well, with her children. But the fact that she's died and 4 kids now are alone, it's a grand tragedy all around.
Well,
it's a grand tragedy. But the bright light, because it's a positive show, so we're going to tie it up and say at least the justice system came through for her this time around. Now, is it because she was famous? Probably, but it could be a precedence for other cases.
Yeah, so I think as you were reading the story, I did recognize one of the songs. I didn't even know she was on that. Is it the Ekweme song? Yeah, so that was that really.
It's a shame. It's a shame. And women, speak up. If you're being abused, stop hiding and pretending everything is okay. Everything is not okay. Right, we're going to go away and we're going to come back and we're going to have our history segment, because we love our history segment. All right, Baron, do you have any songs for us before?
Okay, so next is Victony Soweto.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
Don't know that one.
Body they draw me like a bono. Body they no. I say color your brocodo, no good is locodo. Kelly they bossy my pololo. Can make a salute your commando. Girl if you balance Diego, I give you paper. No go do me Diego, my Maradona. Girl if I lap your sueto, Mama Farisa. Your back, keep it connected. And I can follow your cresco. Sunday, dale creso. Pay for your waist, and I could pay for your lace. A day for your waist. Sunday, dale creso. Pay for your waist, I could pay for your lace. Tell me what, the butcher, chidera. I go keep it, go, domina. Let me try your area. What's in there, your cylinder? 20 kg, each one. When I feed the gas, I go catch something must. People, come on, soldiers. You're a bandage and the waker. I won't go there. But whenever I look in your eyes, nothing nice inside. Your type in a plenty. Yeah, if you balance Diego, I give you paper. No go do me Diego, my Maradona. Girl, if I lap your sueto, Mama Farisa. Girl, your back, keep it connected. And I can follow your cresco.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Okay, so, Baron, you ready, right?
Yep.
Okay, so here it's time for our favorite part of the show, which is a moment in African history. Perfection. All right, so this moment in African history is a stretch. It is a reach, but it's a very interesting stretch and a very interesting reach. Baron, have you heard of Queen Charlotte? Come on.
I'm not sure.
So Queen Charlotte was supposed to allegedly be the first black queen in England.
Okay.
It's been a very loosely biographed, in Bridgerton. There's a standalone season. It's called Queen Charlotte. It's a standalone from the Bridgerton world, and it's supposed to be like about her. But throughout history, people have not been sure. She just had like these certain features, and people said she was this, she was that, she was this. She was from Germany, and she was brought to marry King George III, the one who lost America. So she was his wife, and she is the grandmother of Queen Victoria. She's the grandmother of Queen Victoria. And then the line continues to Queen Elizabeth II. So it's be said that Queen Elizabeth II has a black relative, but nobody really knows. So today I thought, why not talk about it? Why not find out? And at the end, we'll decide between you and me. We will put an answer to this, Baron, you and I. All the historians, the researchers, royal biographers for 400 years don't know, but you and I are going to put an answer to this question today. How about that?
All right.
Here we go. Yep. So our friends again from Royalty Now, who we love on the show, have put together this amazing video on Queen Charlotte, and was she or was she not England's first black queen? Here we go.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Royalty Now, where we bring you face to face with figures from the past. Queen Charlotte, a young girl plucked from an obscure German province and whisked away to become the Queen Consort of Great Britain. She's recently been popularized through Bridgerton's Queen Charlotte spin-off, and today we'll talk about what she really looked like, including the claims that she was a woman of color, and then reveal. Sophia Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz was born on the 19th of May, 1744, to her father, Charles, the Duke of Mecklenburg, and her mother, Princess Elizabeth. The small German duchy she was raised in was considered to be a bit of a backwater by the more powerful European courts. Her upbringing was rather simple, and her education was more akin to the average country lady than a future queen. By the age of 17, she had spent most of her time learning domestic skills and helping in her local community. But her fortune was about to change drastically. 700 miles away in England, a 22-year-old King George III of Great Britain was looking for a wife. He had recently ended a love affair with a beauty named Lady Sarah Lennox and had resigned himself to a political match. George had a long list of criteria he wanted in a wife. First, she had to be Protestant. She should be young, respectable, but not overly cultured, fairly intelligent, but not too headstrong. She should be amiable and eager to please. Essentially, she should be easy for George to mold into whoever he wanted her to be. His advisors swept through Europe looking for potential candidates and presented the idea of Sophia Charlotte in the little German duchy of Mecklenburg-Strelitz. No one was more surprised about this choice than Charlotte herself, who had actually been making preparations to join a nunnery when she received the royal proposal. Only 17 years old, it's around this time that we get our first descriptions of Charlotte. The first comes from a man named Colonel David Graham, who was sent as part of the diplomatic party to retrieve Charlotte. He describes her as small, but with a pretty figure, white, even teeth with expressive eyes that were full of good humor, but then continued by stating that her nose was very flat and her mouth was very large, finishing his description by stating that luckily all of her animation counters her physical defects. After her arrival in England, it seemed as though everyone was delighted with her appearance, but a man named Henry Walpole would write that Charlotte was not tall nor a beauty, pale, very thin, but looks sensible and genteel. Her hair is darkish and fine, her forehead low, her nose very well, except the nostrils spreading too wide. The mouth has the same fault, but her teeth are good. Not the warmest of welcomes. Luckily, Charlotte didn't speak any English. Honestly, Charlotte's transition to life in England was not the most seamless experience. Despite these less than generous descriptions, the king himself seemed overjoyed with his new bride. At their wedding banquet, they stayed up until 2 a.m. chatting in German and laughing continually. And it seemed to be a happy match. The couple generally spent as much time together as they could, even sharing a bed, which was unusual for the time period. Their happiness is reflected in their huge number of children. Over the years, they had 15 children, 13 of whom lived to adulthood. Charlotte was pretty much constantly pregnant, giving birth every year or two until 1783 when she had her last. Unfortunately, George III would suffer from devastating bouts of mental and physical illness starting in the late 1780s that would last the rest of his life. As the king gradually became permanently insane, Charlotte's personality also altered. She developed a horrible temper, which caused her relationships with her adult children to become strained, especially with her eldest son, who wanted his father to be deemed unfit to rule, which Charlotte thought was a horrible betrayal. Eventually, though, Charlotte had to move on with her life, and she was forced to accept that her husband would never get better. She would reconcile with her children and found her old self again, continuing to work well into her 70s. On November 17, 1818, Queen Charlotte would die after 57 years as the Queen of Great Britain, holding the hand of her eldest son, George. Now onto the main question. What did Charlotte really look like, and why do people think she might have been Britain's first biracial queen? This idea has recently been repopularized because of the new Bridgerton spin-off, because it casts Charlotte as a black woman, including the disclaimer that the show is simply fiction inspired by fact. So let's dive into all the evidence, both for and against the theory that Charlotte was biracial. The idea began in the early 1900s by those who were simply observing her portraits. German historian Bernhold Springer concluded that between her portraits, specifically those by Alan Ramsay, and the numerous descriptions of her broad nose and lips, that she must have some African ancestry. Then, J.A. Rogers expanded on this idea in his 1940 book called Sex and Race. But there was no real research conducted here. These were just early observations and assumptions made by scholars. It was only in the 1990s that her ancestry was actually looked into by a genealogist and Black history researcher named Mario de Valdez y Cocom, who presented his findings in a PBS Frontline episode about Queen Charlotte. Cocom worked from a few sources. First, he noticed that some things had been said about Charlotte by those closest to her, which supported this theory. Her physician allegedly said that she had a mulatto face, which is an outdated and offensive way to describe someone of mixed African and European ancestry. Sir Walter Scott wrote that she was ill-colored, which I take to mean anything that was outside of the norm of European whiteness at this time. Cocom also found that Queen Charlotte was, and I quote, directly descended from a black branch of the Portuguese royal house, particularly a Moorish mistress of Alfonso III named Madrigana, who lived in the 13th century. This leads us to an interesting question. Could Queen Charlotte's appearance have been influenced by a relative from 500 years back? Another point Cocom makes is the artist responsible for the most, quote, African-looking portraits of the Queen was Alan Ramsay. Ramsay was a well-known abolitionist, and even had a black member of his family named Dido Elizabeth Bell, who you may have heard of. It is interesting that in portraits by other artists, like Thomas Gainsborough, her features are softened. Cocom writes that artists of the time period were expected to play down, soften, or even obliterate undesirable features. So Cocom thinks it's possible that Ramsay, the well-known abolitionist, may have been more willing to paint her features accurately. I can see how the Alan Ramsay portraits might be interpreted as depicting a woman of mixed race, but I do feel the evidence is inconclusive. It's also very challenging to imagine how Charlotte could have inherited her African features from a single ancestor so many centuries ago. It seems more probable that Queen Charlotte's detractors, of whom she had many, resorted to racial stereotypes in their attempts to insult her. Even in unkind caricatures of the royal couple, like political cartoons, they depict Charlotte as a white woman. I think her detractors would be quick to caricature a racial difference if anyone thought there was some truth to it. The idea that Charlotte was Great Britain's first black queen is really interesting and thought-provoking. And again, I can definitely see why some people, including myself, believe she could have been mixed race after seeing some of her portraits. But it's her meticulously kept lineage that convinced me otherwise. Still, I really want to hear what you all think about this theory. This is all the evidence we have, so how do you find it? Hello everyone, and welcome back to Royalty Now, where we bring you face to face.
Right, so Baron, what do you think? Do you think there's any fact in there? Could one single ancestor of African descent, many centuries before you're born, cause you to have African lineage or features? Or do you think she's just straight up white?
It's possible for a gene to just come years later or generations later. Yeah. I mean, it's science, so.
I mean, I was going to say there's a possibility, but when they said, the caricatures of the day, when they were painting unflattering portraits of them, but they'd never depicted her as anything but white, I would have said, I think that's where I think, yeah, she probably was just white.
Yeah, so the I don't know how I've not heard of this. Maybe for you that watch
Bridgerton, and also before that, because there's always been this Queen Charlotte thing, because she does have this look that is a bit different from your standard, white queen royalty in the British family. Of course, there are other royals in other families that are mixed or whatever.
Yeah.
But nobody ever says she was. And then I remember watching a movie about Meghan Markle going into just before she married Prince Harry, and the Queen took her. Apparently, the Queen Elizabeth took her to the portrait of Queen Charlotte and said, "This is my relative, and she was of mixed race just like you." I think she was trying to get her to welcome her and all that. She was of mixed heritage just like you. I don't know if that was made up for the film. It was meant to be like a biography, like a proper fact-based biopic. So, but people add things. So, did the Queen ever really say that to Meghan Markle? Did she ever really take her to a portrait of Queen Charlotte and say, "This is my relative, and she was a mixture just like you. You have something in common," and all that. So, that's the first time that was not the first time I'd heard about Queen Charlotte, but that was one of the stronger remembrances of Queen Charlotte being possibly biracial. But it's a stretch. I think it's a stretch, don't you?
Yeah.
She does look interesting though. She looks a bit different, don't you think?
Yeah, she looks different. She looks different. I was thinking, did they try to hide this on purpose?
Yeah, because like you said, the one artist who painted her more ethnically was the one who had a mixed race relative in his family.
Yeah.
So he was more, and then the other ones really whitewashed her a lot. So, it could be that he was more honest with the way she looked. And of course, the way they described her nose and her mouth, I don't know. It's interesting to think about it though, but does it really mean anything? Because if she was super white and with a few black features, married a white person, all her kids are super white. So at the end of the day, does it really mean anything? And did she do anything for the black population, the African population in her time? Not really. In the movie she did. But in real life, I don't think anything like that was even talked about. It's interesting. It's a fantasy, I think, but super interesting. Anyway. That's our show.
Yep,
that's our show.
Out of time.
You are out of time. But I hope you've enjoyed the show. I think it's given us food for thought. What do you think about Queen Charlotte possibly being of African ancestry? And what do you think about the fact that the murderer, the husband of Osinachi, was sentenced to death? Yeah, for domestic violence and for contributing to her death as well. Do you think that's a sign that the government, the justice system is changing? in Africa. We talked about possibly the first African Pope. Yeah, that's a possibility. And what does it mean to us, as well as other news stories today. So I think we had a wonderful time. Thank you so much, Baron, for being a fantastic producer on this. And we will be with you next time. Do you have time for a proverb real quick? Very quick?
Maybe
no? One very, very quick. Okay. Yeah. No shortcuts exist to the top of a palm tree.
Yeah, you can't get what you want. You have to go through the process.
Yeah, go through the process. Okay, here we go. So here is BB signing out, BB and Baron signing out from the BB's African News Magazine show on Jambo Radio. Hope you had a wonderful time with us, and we'll see you next week with more news, history, spotlight, and everything in between. Until then, stay proudly African. Bye.